In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you a tutorial on how to cut this backless jacket. So if this is something you like, kindly hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up. So let's dive right into today's video. So to start, here is my pattern, and I've gone ahead to mark out my basic measurement, which includes my shoulder to bust, under bust, waist, and blouse length or jacket length. Now, if you notice, I have a mark in front, which is about 1.5 inches for my button allowance for the pattern to overlap each other at the front. So all my measurement for this pattern will start from that point. So from there, I'll mark my shoulder divided by 2. And after I'm done marking that, I'll just go ahead to rule out a line, come down by 1 inch at the end of my shoulder, place my ruler, and I will connect. So after I'm done connecting, the next step is to find my chest line. So next, I'll just mark out my basic neckline of 3 inches. So the next step is to find my chest line, which is my bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches, and I'll draw out a straight line. So after I'm done marking that, I'll go ahead to place my tape. Whatever I have on the shoulder, that is what I'm going to mark on this chest line area. Now I'll place my ruler and I'm going to draw out a straight line. So I'm going to go ahead to mark my dart. So to mark your dart is your nipple to nipple divided by 2, and all our measurement is starting after the button allowance in front. So I was supposed to divide my armhole, which I actually forgot, but I'll go ahead to draw out my armhole curve much later. So after I'm done marking this, the next step I'll take is to mark my underbust dart. So I'll be marking 1 inch on both sides. So for this pattern, you can cut it out as a basic pattern, or you can add like a little bustier effect underneath to give it that curve or contouring at the underbust of your pattern. Now I'll just go ahead to place my ruler and I'm going to connect. So the next step now is to go ahead to place my ruler and I'm going to connect. So after I'm done connecting, I'll connect from the bust down to the under bust, and I will repeat this also at the other side of my pattern. So after I'm done marking this right, I'm going to go ahead to use my marker to outline this to the end before we'll continue marking out. So now from that point, I marked my basic neckline of 3 inches at the top. I'll go ahead to find the midpoint or fold my tape this way and mark. Now I'll place my ruler and I will connect. After I'm done connecting, the next step I'll take is just to go up by where I want my pattern to start. So I'll go ahead to draw out a straight line. So at first, I wanted to cut out this pattern in form of a bustier, but after marking this, I ended up not using this part. So I won't be using the upper part of this pattern. I'll just go ahead to cut it like a basic normal pattern at the top, but I'll be having a contouring at the under bust. Now I'm going to go ahead to outline this part just to indicate that you need a button overlap in front. Now I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4. I'll go ahead to totally ignore the dart intake at the over bust. Here I'll mark my under bust circumference divided by 4. Measure this dart intake here, replace it, and add my sewing allowance. Now I'll mark my waist circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace, and add my sewing allowance. Here I'm going to mark my hip circumference divided by 4, and I will replace my dart intake and add my sewing allowance. After I'm done marking that, I'm going to go ahead to place my ruler and I'm going to connect from the bust to the under bust, from the waist to the blouse length. Now I'm going to place my ruler and I'm going to go ahead to connect. After I'm done connecting, I'm going to go ahead to use my marker to outline my pattern. So next, I'm going to go ahead to work on the upper part of my pattern. But before that, I'll just go ahead to connect this, slant this down. So when you're cutting your pattern, this button allowance line won't be showing. So from this neckline, basic neckline of 3 inches, I'll connect it all the way to the front. Now I'll mark about 2 inches and I'll be connecting this, but I'll go ahead to divide my armhole into 2. I'll connect from that point all the way to the armhole and connect to the upper part, just like when we are drafting out our pattern. So now from these 2 inches, I'll go ahead to connect it to the armhole of my dress this way. So after I'm done connecting, right, the next step I'm going to take is to go ahead to connect this all the way to the armhole of the dress. So you're going to cut out this part and reattach it to your dress. Now I'm going to add an extension to the upper part. Now if you're using a basic neckline of 3 by 1 inch at the back, your extension should be about 3.5 inches. But if you're using a basic neckline of 3 by 1.5, your extension at the back will be 4 inches. So now I'll go ahead to cut this out. So while cutting out, my phone stopped recording. So this is what I have after cutting out. So the only thing I did was to go ahead to just cut out the dart at the upper part, and then I went ahead to just trace out the extension to going towards the armhole, and after that I went ahead to just cut out the rest of the pattern. And going over
to the back pattern, I've gone ahead to mark out my basic measurement just like we did for the front. Now I went ahead to mark my dart, which is my nipple to nipple divided by 2, and I'll draw out a straight line. So now I went ahead to mark my 1/2 inch on the waist, on the under bust, and I also marked that towards my waist, and I will go ahead to connect. So after connecting, I'll insert my measurement. I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4 and add my sewing allowance. Mark my under bust circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake and add my sewing allowance. Here I'll go ahead to mark my waist circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace and add my sewing allowance. So whatever I have on the waist, I'll take it to that 1 inch or 1.5 inches after my waistline. So I don't really like my jacket or blazer, half blazer, to be hanging. That's why I like going down by 1 or 1.5 inches after my waistline. So after this, I'll just go ahead and outline, and I'll be cutting out my pattern. So this is what we have. And if you find this video very interesting and educative, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and also join us on our next video. Thanks. So you can blend this out or just cut out the darts.